Hey everyone, it's the UK and the sun is shining, and I thought I'd do this in the garden. We are making the mini donuts and I'm going to show you the ingredients. Then I'm going to move inside. These are ketogenic, they're good for sports people, good for boxers, MMA, runners, cyclists who like the sweet things in life but don't want to put on any fat, okay? They don't want to gain extra weight. This also ties up with ketosis and it keeps you in a fat burning state. Got the almond flour. Now you'll need 130 grams of this. I've mixed the almond flour, so I've got about 100 grams of almond flour, which is fine almond flour, and then ground almonds, which is kind of called almond meal in the States. It just changes their texture slightly. So we have also got psyllium husk. You'll need about 30 grams of that. And we have got sweetener, so this is monk fruit sweetener. You'll need a spoonful of that or half a spoonful depending on your taste and how sweet you want it. I've also got another sweetener, but also gives it an added bit of flavour as well, as cocoa powder. Now there is 8.8 grams of carbs per 100 g in this particular cocoa powder, but we're only going to use about a teaspoonful, a tablespoonful even. We've got baking powder. You're going to use a tablespoon of baking powder. You're going to use a pinch of salt. And if you want to add to taste a little bit more, vanilla extract. About a teaspoon of that. Also, we're going to cook it in olive oil. Now, first of all, what I do is I cook it in a saucepan in hot water. About 5 minutes or so. And then I take them out, I dry them, and I use olive oil. I half cover them in olive oil and then I cook with the olive oil, and it just comes out better than I think than putting them in the oven. You can put them in the oven as well. So onward to the kitchen. We have the almond flour already in the bowl, 130 grams. I'm going to add the psyllium husk of 30 grams. We also need some hot water straight from the kettle, so we're going to pour in half a cup of hot water. Then comes the baking powder, so the spoonful, that is the tablespoonful of baking powder goes in. That's all stirred in. And the sweetener of monk's fruit, that's also a tablespoon or half a tablespoon depending on your taste of sweetness. In goes the squeeze of vanilla extract, about a teaspoon, and in goes the cocoa powder. So that will also add to the taste. You don't need the cocoa powder in, but it's going to give it a brown colour. So we're kneading the dough, and we're going to make sure that's the right consistency, so not too wet, not too dry. Then we're going to be cutting it up shortly into about 10 pieces, around about 20 grams each piece, where we're going to roll each piece. So first we're going to douse the chopping board in flour, almond flour. Then we're going to roll the pieces. So we'll roll the pieces in the almond flour, and then we're going to pop them in the pan. Now that's the hot water doing its work. So first of all, we're going to boil them in hot water for around about 5 minutes. We're then going to pop them in the oil in the saucepan. So we're going to half cover them in oil, and they'll be cooking quite nicely in there. So we can put about 4 or 5 of them in, and they do brown up quite nicely. Now they do have a sweet taste, but they look quite savoury. They look kind of like chicken balls or meatballs, but they are actually quite sweet. Now we're going to roll them in the sweetener. So that's the monk's fruit sweetener. And now for the taste test. These are the mini donuts. Let's have a taste. Wonderful. A nice sweetness, a light, fluffy flavour. Magnifique. Those are wonderful. Thank you.